find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to a fresh edition of GTF Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and a programming note for you. Tonight is the season premiere of Buffon 55, the John Buffon Show. For those of you not familiar with the show, John Buffon is the nephew of great Bears linebacker Doug Buffon. Doug was named one of the 100 greatest Bears of all time. Well, Doug tutored his nephew, John Buffon, on broadcasting. And so John took a career in broadcasting, was a sports anchor in a small town in Pennsylvania, has had numerous jobs, one with USA Today reporting on outdoor sports. And so John has been now with the Barroom Network for 7 years, previewing upcoming contests. And tonight is the season premiere, along with his co-host, Alyssa Barbieri of BearsWire.com, and Danny Shim is now joining the show to provide his evaluation. It all starts tonight at 7:30 p.m. Buffon 55. Make sure you join us live. I will be there behind the scenes. Now let's welcome in the man of the hour, the man we all want to hear from. His name is Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. This has been a crazy, as Swifty said in the chat, this has been a crazy 24, 48 hours. I want to get your immediate reaction to what's transpired at Hallis Hall.
Well, number one, it's typical. It's not easy. Having been, sitting in Hallis Hall and other places when you got to cut down, it's not fun. Mm-hmm. It's probably the worst day or days that you have working in the football calendar. You're telling guys, I'm sorry, you're not good enough. And I had to do it in the XFL, and I had to do it all by myself at the XFL. It's not, and it's so from that part, it's really tough, and you got to have a lot of empathy. You're breaking kids' hearts, and these guys are kids for the most part. Mm-hmm. So I don't wish that job on anybody, and a lot of fans, and I'm not trying to rag on the fans, but they go, they're almost heartless. Mm-hmm. and you can't be, because you've got relationships with these people. You've been with them, especially the new players. With the new players, you've been with them since the draft. For 6 weeks of the OTAs, they get 5 weeks off. They come back for camp, and because you're at camp, you're living with them basically every day. It's just hard, but it's part of the job. You have to do it. You got to do what you think is right for the football team. Now, Is everybody going to agree? And I mean, on the outside, of course not. You're always going to get people. They're going to piss and moan, bitch, complain. But the decision makers are doing what they think is right, and they're not just doing it for today, they're doing it for tomorrow, meaning next year and the year after. So right. Whether you like the decision or not, that's what's being made. And so, listening to polls today, he kind of made that known. Yeah. That you don't like doing it, and why they had to do some of the things they did.
And Greg, I've for the last several years, watching Hard Knocks, and they sometimes have the segment where the coaches and administrative people are telling the player that being cut, and hearing stories from you and others and reading stories and so forth. I've always wondered why the coaches don't really thank the players for helping build the team, because all of their work in preseason has really helped to improve the team by providing competition, organization, by buying into, the organization's culture and so forth. It's like those guys should get a medallion on their way out the door.
You know what? Although, and I'm sorry to interrupt, I think a lot
sorry.
of coaches do that, and a lot of personnel people
Okay.
do that. You try to make it as positive as you can.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to tell the guy, "Hey, you suck. Sorry, you're not good enough." No. You say, "Hey, look, I know you gave your best effort, and we really appreciate it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and I'm glad to hear that, because I really do think that's it. They are a big part of laying down that season's foundation with their work during camp. Greg, we have to get to a huge topic that happened several days ago. Trevis Gibson reportedly asked for a trade. You then put on X that highly unlikely that happened, and then you retracted.
I said I wasn't. I was saying I'm not buying into it. Is what that's the exact word. I'm not buying it. That's the exact words I did. But then on Sunday, I got a text from an agent. Now, I'm not 100% sure this guy is Trevis's agent or part of the group, but this guy is well known in the business and very good, and not the person you and I both know. Just so okay. And it was out of the blue. He sent me a text. It's a guy I've known for probably 35 years, and he said he's not going to be there. He'd like to see if they can get him another trade. In other words, and I go, well, what do you mean? And he goes, they've already let him know he's not going to be on the 53.
Oh, wow. Okay. Which is not totally surprising in terms of letting a player know, because in years past, players would have been cut, 2 weeks ago. It's changed in the last 2 years, where now you get down to the 53-man roster all at once. And so I'm not totally surprised. And there was a story that perhaps Gibson was too full of himself or overly confident with his abilities. And do you know if there's any truth to that?
Well, this guy alleviated to that he's got an ultra high opinion of his ability. And you know what? He better.
It's very true.
Okay. So, but sometimes, like, I think what he was alluding to is he felt that he thought he should be the starter.
Well, and in today's press conference, both Ian Cunningham and Ryan Poles addressed that, and basically they said that he had much more success in a 3-4 defense, and that Gibson would probably end up in a 3-4 defense and probably have continued success. So not a fit for Eberflus's 4-3.
It wasn't a great scheme fit, and I can buy that. The only thing is though, when you're an edge guy in a 3-4 and you're an edge guy in a 4-3, the difference is you're rushing from a 2-point or a 3-point.
Right.
But a lot of what you're doing, except for maybe having to drop 5 times a game, is pretty much the same. But you got first and 10 responsibility in the 4-3, where in the 3-4, you're playing on your feet as an outside linebacker, not necessarily as, because then the 3-4 teams go into a 4-man line when you get into a sub situation, and then they're the pass rushers.
Right.
So there's a little bit difference that way, but I don't see it as a huge difference. But I thought, I know they not going to say put the gun to his head, but I know they challenged the hell out of him. And I thought he responded well. But, let's face it, he didn't play good last year. And you have those memories. And so, could it have been predetermined? Yeah. Could have been. Do I know that? No. I know a lot of people were surprised this morning that the other guy got cut.
Yeah.
He'll be on, not a doubt in my mind, he'll be on the practice squad if he in fact clears waivers.
Okay.
But, it's only one guy got. How about this? 24 guys got claimed across the league.
Right.
Very, very low number.
I was surprised by it.
Yeah. So this guy's he's going to make it through.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they'll put him on the practice squad and let him further develop. The problem he has is he doesn't play the run very good.
Mm.
I thought he played the run a little better in game 3 than he did game 2, but game 2 he was awful.
Mm. Interesting. I just want to let people in the chat know we've got a couple of hundred people with us, a little less than a couple of hundred people with us live in the chat. I am collecting questions. I've got 2 in my queue, one from Jeff, one from Mark, and we'll get to those briefly. What I want to do now is play Ian Cunningham at the press conference about an hour ago, talking about the 2 players who were claimed off of waivers by the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, we had a chance to see him a couple weeks ago in Indy, just the athleticism, the motor. We watched him last night as well again, probably for the 3rd time, but just his flexibility, his pass rusher, another Notre Dame connection to the Bears roster. And then with Quindell, we had a really good feel for him coming out. Breck Ackley did a really good job on him, evaluating him. We were in the process of trying to get him during the UDFA process, but we weren't lucky enough to get him, but we are now. He's physical downhill safety. He had 10 career interceptions in college, so he's got good ball skills. He's going to help HT on special teams, so we're excited.
The first player he was referring to was, of course, Khalid Kareem, who was picked off of the Colts. He was dropped by the Colts. What do you know about Khalid, and do you think that he can help this team more than Travis Gibson?
He's a better all-around player. Okay. And really, it's not Travis Gibson. Travis Gibson was cut yesterday. They cut a guy for him today. Mm-hmm. So it's that. And he's a better all-around player in that he can play the run. This is a guy that I've been watching since he was probably a sophomore in college at Notre Dame. He's a good football player. Semi-local. He's from Detroit. He originally committed to the University of Alabama and then decommitted from Alabama and went to Notre Dame. He's got good size. When he was at Cincinnati, he was actually a 3-4 outside backer.
Okay.
Some of that, there's plays you see him where he's on his feet. But he was a defensive end in college. He's athletic. He runs well. He's got long arms. He's got 34.5-inch arms. He's strong. He's a real smart kid. And on top of that, he's a good kid. So, and the Bears spent, 2 days of practice in a preseason game with him. And in the preseason game, he had a hell of a game. Yeah. So, and I'm sure he looked pretty good in practice too, because you're not going to claim the guy if that. I'm sure that was like the icing on the cake. Yeah. They saw how good he was in practice, and they had their own players to compare him against. There's a lot of guys on X yesterday and the day, when the cuts went out, and there's also they got to claim this corner rush the Colts cut. Well, it's the same thing. They had 2 days and a game to watch him, and from what I understand, he didn't do very good. Okay, he got claimed. He got claimed by Kansas City, but Kansas City was 32nd in the claiming thing. So 31 other team or 30 other teams, passed him by. So why should the Bears claim him? And I put this out yesterday because this is important. When you claim a guy during preseason, during camp, you've got 90 people on the roster. Mm-hmm. You're claiming a guy with traits that you like the traits, you want to kick the tires, you get to see what we're looking for, and then you make it and you make a decision. It's not costing you a thing because he's just getting preseason salary. So he's not, the salary he gets in his contract doesn't count yet. But when you get to now, when you're creating a 53-man roster and you've got the cut down, Now anybody you claim has to be an upgrade. You're not claiming guys now to develop. You're claiming guys because they're better than the guys that's going to get cut when he comes in.
Right.
Okay.
You're still going to develop them, but I understand the essence of what you're saying.
You're trying to upgrade the roster with what he has. So you're better than what you currently have.
Mm-hmm.
Like they claim the safety, and then they cut AJ, who had a pretty good camp.
Mm-hmm.
But they think the safety from the Rams is better. His name's Johnson, right? We got another Johnson. We got a lot of Johnsons and Jones on this team. So I think there's 3 Johnsons now.
There's a joke there somewhere, but I'm not going.
And no, I'm not going there either. I wasn't referring to that. But, and the same thing, when they signed a veteran, they signed the punt returner, who's actually not a bad slot receiver. Mm-hmm. Now, he's not fast. Usually you want a guy with some jets to break the long one on the punt returns.
Right.
He doesn't do that. He's a 4.6 guy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. But he's 4.6 going straight, but he's probably 4.3 going sideways. Real quick feet, real quick, good hands, tough as nails. And so he led the league in punt returns last year. Mm-hmm. And right now, the Bears don't have a player that they feel comfortable with that they could stick back there and return punts. So now so that's an important thing. So again, they're upgrading. They sign a vet, and they upgrade the roster doing it. So I think that it's just people got to remind themselves that. You see him on there, you go, I like that guy. They got to claim him. Mm-hmm. But is he better than the guy he's going to replace?
Indeed. And one of the things regarding cutting players that I think would be worthwhile for all of us fans to listen to is Alan Williams talking about the process of making cuts and the evaluation that goes into it. This is Alan Williams, 45 seconds.
It's a collaborative effort. Not just me, the position coaches, myself, the head coach, the GM, we all get together and I give them my 2 cents worth, and then it's up to let the professionals, so to speak, they're looking at the big picture. I'm looking at the defense. So sometimes my view of something is strictly, hey, what I want. And then they go, hey, this is what Allen wants. This is what the defense wants. But this is what's best for the entire football team. And, that's where that's why they have the GM and the head coach title, because they're looking at the entire picture where I'm just looking at, hey, my position.
I just lost Greg. He should be joining us back quickly. I'll play another soundbite from yesterday's press conference. This was Matt Eberflus talking about the defensive end positions and the fact that the 2 guys who were targeted to start aren't quite didn't play much. There he is. Let's see. Get him back.
Right in the middle of Allen's interview.
Well, it's something that
my computer said refresh the screen. So
okay.
It took about a minute?
Yeah, you got to upgrade that computer, that 1946 IBM.
No, what is it? It's a Dell, I think. Yeah, it's a Dell.
Yeah, they took over for IBM, I think. Anyway, Williams didn't say anything that you don't already know. Talking about the process, he also talked about how they look at everything from the OTAs to how guys are in the classroom, how they are in practice,
absolutely,
who they face in practice and in exhibition games. He went into a detailed explanation on that, and I think us fans, we just watched the preseason game and we immediately think, well, why are they dropping that guy?
It's the whole big picture. You are grading every single snap that player participates in every practice. Mm-hmm. And it's on paper. It's put in the computer. And then you've got, how he is in the meetings. Is he attentive? Is he a first or second row guy, or is he the last row guy? Mm-hmm. Little things like that. How does he get along with his teammates? How does he fit within that position group's room?
Mm-hmm.
there was one coach I worked with pretty closely when I was there, and we sent him out to do some players, work them out in the pre-draft process.
Mm-hmm.
And he came back and he said, there was one guy, and he goes, I really like the player. He's not going to fit in the room.
Ooh.
He said, he won't survive. He says his personality and the personality of the veterans I have in the room will not mesh, and it's not going to be good.
Interesting. So it could be something about if a player is an introvert, not that that's a bad thing, but it could not mesh with all the extroverts in a particular room. That's kind of an interesting point there, one that I've never really thought about.
Well, don't forget, you got a lot of alpha dogs playing football.
Indeed.
Okay. And there's a lot of testosterone flowing around there.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the personality in the room is important. Now, obviously, if a guy's talent's way up here,
mm-hmm.
it's up to the coach to, well, not just the coach, but you got a player development guy. And excuse me, people, I've got a lung problem, and when it gets later in the afternoon, it flares up. So that's why I'm losing my voice sometimes, and I start coughing. So I apologize.
If you need a break at any point, just let me know.
So anyway, you don't want to get rid of good talent. So you got to have the people in the building work with everybody involved. But if it's just not going to work,
mm-hmm.
then that can be a consideration too.
Indeed. All right. Lots of people in the chat, and probably all the Bears Nation, Bears world is talking about the quarterback situation, because right now on the 53-man roster, there are only 2 quarterbacks. It's Justin Fields and rookie Tyson Bagent. What say you about what the Bears could potentially do to bring in another quarterback and have a veteran on the team?
Well, if I heard Ryan Poles right in the presser, Nate Peterman's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I took it as he's coming back on the 53. I saw Bigsy's thing, and Bigsy says, well, I don't know if he's going to be on the 53 or the practice squad, but it says he's got to work through, so it won't be for a couple of days, so maybe he's got some other offers. Well, I don't think that. I think that, they're only practicing today and tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Then they're going to have a long weekend, holiday weekend, and then they're going to reconvene next Monday.
Mm-hmm.
That's what almost every team does, except for Kansas City and Detroit, who got to play next Thursday. So I think they say, hey, take the rest of the week off. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me that, he is a vested vet.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't go through waivers.
Right.
That they had an agreement with them before he walked out the door yesterday. Because you can do that. You do those little side deals with a vet,
Sure.
Play games with the roster during the season. You can do it. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
You can do it before the trade deadline. So you cut him on Friday and you bring him back on Monday.
Yeah.
And he gets his paycheck because he's on the team on Friday. If you're on the team on Wednesday, you're getting paid.
Mm.
So, and if it's a vested vet, he just cares about getting his money.
That's right.
So you can play games like that. But, that's what I think happened.
Mm-hmm.
He said, Tevin's going on IR. And that did not surprise me. I've been speculating that. I thought, well, okay, said he might be out 3 weeks. So why not make it 4? Just to be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got an extra roster spot. And, so that's your spot for Peterman. Well, no, actually, that's your spot for the kick returner. What the hell is his name? And
Taylor.
Trent Taylor. And then if you bring back Peterman, somebody else got to go on IR.
Exactly. And it could be Noah Sewell. It could be.
Well, Sewell was back practicing, but the other center got a broken hand.
Okay. And polls did say today they were going to put Tevin Jenkins on the injured reserve list for 4 weeks.
So he's out. Right. So and that's the minimum you have to be on.
Okay.
And
good.
the injury, that one, remember I sent you the text. I go, did you listen to so and so on it when they interviewed her before the game? She said, well, they say he's going to miss the first 3 games. And I said, she just said something she wasn't supposed to say. So,
Greg is referring to the female scout that was featured on the Bears preseason game on Fox TV. I apologize, I don't have her name in front of me.
and it was, on the pregame show with Lou Canellis. And, she, as soon as I saw that, I'm going, I don't think Ryan Poles is going to like that.
Yeah, okay. Keep that a secret. Michael Henneman wants to know regarding Tyson Bagent as the backup. If Justin gets hurt, would you bring in another guy for QB2? In other words, are you comfortable with Tyson Bagent filling in for Justin Fields in the fourth quarter of a game and Justin is banged up or he's got to play a couple of games? Where's your comfort level with the rookie?
Well, we talked a little bit about this last week.
Mm-hmm.
I've been impressed with him all preseason. I think he has, and people from other places might argue with me, but I'm firm with it. He's outplayed the first round quarterbacks in the preseason. Hands down. It ain't even close because I've watched every snap from those guys. And this guy has been more poised, more accurate, just about everything. Just his command of the huddle, his ability to read things. It's like, where'd this guy come from? So could he do it? Yeah, but still, it's preseason. He hasn't. You got to do it in the regular season. And you're seeing a lot of vanilla in the preseason. And that's not going to be the case once the real games start in 10 days. So I just, I think that's why they're bringing back Nate. And I know your next question is, well, what about bringing in another quarterback?
Right.
I do not see that happening. And for one reason only. And it's not that Peterman can do it or he can't do it. You bring in a guy from off the street, and I'll qualify it. Unless he has played in a very similar system, meaning San Francisco, the Rams, Green Bay, he's useless for at least a month.
Yeah.
So why are you wasting a roster spot on him? Look what happened. Look at how slow it was for Chase Claypool to come around, and people were pissing him about, oh, he's bad trade. No, it wasn't. It's a difficult offense to learn. It's real difficult for receivers. It's more difficult for quarterbacks. And so you're going to bring in a guy who's played an entirely different system and say, here's the ship, go sail it. I don't think so. It's going to sink about 100 yards offshore.
Well, you're making good points, although we have seen many situations under emergency situations where a quarterback has been brought off the street and there he is less than 6 days later, he's out there on the football field playing. So
true, but you got to know what the history is. That's all I'm saying. Did the guy who comes off the street and 6 days later he's thrown in and he does a good job, has he played in something similar?
Right. And let's be clear here, myself, and I know Greg certainly isn't. No one is advocating, maybe some fans are, advocating for Tyson Bagent all of a sudden to be anointed the first string quarterback. The kid has a lot of work to do, but it's very clear that his talent is really intriguing. And I can't wait to see him play in more games. And if he does get some regular season playing time this year, I'm going to be glued to my chair watching that tape. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the offensive line. This is Ryan Poles talking about the sacks, the amount of sacks the Chicago Bears allowed last season, and he was asked, is that number going to come down?
I feel better about it. obviously we need to see that number change, and that's a relationship, right? Where protection's got to be better, and I feel better about our setup in terms of the guys in front of them, and our tackles. Braxton is going in year 2, and Darnell's doing a good job, and that alone should help us. And then Justin's ability to execute our offense more efficiently and get the ball out quicker too, like all of that should run together, and that number should drop.
Question is, Greg, these offensive linemen are currently on the 53-man roster. This could change any second. Braxton Jones, Cody Whitehair, Nate Davis, Lucas Patrick, Darnell Wright, Tevin Jenkins is going to our IR. Dan Feeney, recently acquired. Jatari Carter, Larry Borum, Doug Kramer. What is your comfort level with this offensive line right now?
I'll tell you what, I really like the addition of
Dan Feeney?
Yeah, Feeney is he's a pretty good player. In fact, I wrote him up in the 2017 draft book, and I just happened to have that here. I think Kramer's going on IR too. He's got a broken hand.
Right.
And so, and it's his right hand. So if he can't snap the ball, why is he going to, it's not like he all of a sudden is going to become left-handed.
That's right.
So I think, I'm throwing darts at the wall here. I don't know. This is what I think, not what I know. That Tevin's going on IR. Ryan already said that, and the punt returner's got his spot, and then I think if it is Peterman going on the 53, then I think he's got Kramer's spot.
Okay. Well, so
and then they'll play with 8. But this is let me dig this out here. This is what I wrote on Feeney.
While you dig that out, I'll say real quickly, Mark Grody showed some videotape of Lucas Patrick and Darnell Wright in practice. And so it looks like they're getting off the ball and ready to start ramping up.
Nate Davis also.
Nate Davis as well.
They were all practicing. We talked about this before, in previous weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I said it doesn't matter with a lot of these guys whether they play them in preseason or not.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they're practicing the last, this week and next week, they're in good shape, and they'll get them ready to go. And especially guys who are veterans, they know how to play the game. They know what to do. So, but anyway, let's get back to Feeney. This is what I wrote. Strong points. 4-year starter. I had estimated him at 6'4", 304. I don't have his exact numbers. I think it was 6'3" and 7/8 or something like that.
Okay.
That was close. 4-year starter, mostly at right guard, played right tackle the last 4 games of 2016. Good size, athletic, runs well, can get out in space and adjust on the move, stays on his feet, good hand use for both the run and the pass, plays tough physical game, very good run and pass blocker, plays with bend, has good feet, can mirror, slide, recover, durable, and versatile. Weak points not as big as some teams would like. Then my summation is he's a 5th-year senior, 4-year starter, missed 2013 with a foot injury, started 49 games in college.
Wow. Nice.
Yep.
Did you write anything about the mullet he likes to wear?
No, he didn't have the picture I got. He didn't have it.
Okay.
I go, Feeney is a smart, strong, and tough to go. Smart, strong, and tough to go along with having good overall athleticism. Good run and pass blocker, plays a physical game, knows how to use his hands, very good in space and productive with second-level blocks, will come in and start right away for many teams. As a rookie, I probably had him a little higher. I said may also be able to play center, which he ended up. He started 1 full season at center for the Chargers. Started 3 full seasons.
Yep.
Now, in fairness, I had him as like the 1st or 2nd guard in that class. When you look back at that class, the interior offensive line, that draft, it sucked. There's like 3 players in the league from still there. I mean, the other guards, Forrest, Lamp, he was a first rounder by the same team that drafted him, the Chargers. He's gone. Dorian Johnson, gone. I think Pat Elflein is gone.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Darian Mama, gone. Nico Saragusa, I think he's been out a couple of years. Isaac Asiata, Danny Isadora.
Wow.
Jordan Morgan. Sean Harlow. Kyle Kalis. Then you go to the centers. Tyler Orlovsky. Ethan Poisik is still around. John Toth has, been to every club in the league and the XFL. Jeff Fuller, Chase Rouillet, Lucas Crowley. Wasn't a good year for interior offensive line.
Oh, not at all. Wow. All right. Well, speaking of interior offensive linemen, who has the question here? Gary has the question regarding Doug Kramer. Does he have the strength to play center full time? And the fact that he's only a center, does that concern you?
Yeah, it concerns me.
Mm-hmm.
That's, I think, one of the reasons they went out and made that trade. Number one, he's got a broken hand.
Mm-hmm.
You had, really, after Patrick, you had no other center right now because Whitehair's got a broken right hand or something. This guy, Kramer's got a broken hand or something wrong with his right hand. So it's like, who's going to snap the ball if Patrick goes down? So you had to get somebody who could snap. But and you're right, though, about Kramer in that, or the question was right. He is a center only. I don't think he's ever played guard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's athletic enough to play guard. So he has limitations. So if it gets down to who dresses and who doesn't dress, unless you really need him, he isn't dressing on a Sunday because you want a guy who can play guard and center. You're going to usually address 7. So you want a swing tackle and a guy who can play guard and center.
Yep. That's a great point. All right, let's take a look at that running back room now. Pardon me. Khalil Herbert, Deontay Foreman, Rashawn Johnson, Travis Homer, and the fullback, Kerry Blasingame. I have said since this running back unit was formed after the draft that this is perhaps one of the top 10 running back rooms in the entire league. Are you with me or against me, Mr. Greg Gabriel?
Well, I don't know if I'm with you or against you. It's a good room. I think there's quality. I think there's they complement each other well. Each one's a little different from the other. As far as Homer, Johnson, Foreman, and Herbert, they're all got a little something different. They bring something different to the table. Some got speed. Herbert's got speed. Foreman's got speed. Homer's got speed. He's faster than he's quicker than he is fast, and he plays faster, but his time speed is the slowest of the 4. I mean, he's the most Monty-like of the group in that he's a very good all-around back. He can do everything where the other guys where Herbert's not a great pass blocker, not a great receiver. Foreman, I don't know, to be honest, I don't know about his pass blocking. He's a better receiver than his numbers show. They just haven't used him in that way. And Homer, I know he can pass block. I know he can catch the ball really well. And he's a hell of a special teamer.
Yeah. When Foreman met with the media last week, he didn't sound too happy about the lack of snaps that he was getting. And it seemed, and I'm just reading in between his words here, he may not be happy that Khalil Herbert is probably going to get the starting reps with the team. I think that's a good thing because it's going to keep him hungry unless he's going to go off and sulk somewhere. And I don't think he's that type of player. But
if that was the case, he'd be gone.
Yeah,
exactly. Or he will be gone. I mean,
right.
I think we've been around this crew long enough, and it hasn't been that long, but long enough that they're not going to put up with that.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Okay, let's take a look at the wide receiver room now. We have got DJ Moore. We've got Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool. Velus Jones Jr. is still a part of this team, along with Tyler Scott, the rookie, and Equinemius St. Brown. And then Trent Taylor will be joining the team after he passes his physical and signs his contract, which could be later today.
He's already here. There was he took some pictures of himself inside Hallis Hall.
Mm-hmm. Yep, he sure did. So that's why I figure he'll probably get everything wrapped and ready to go by the end of the day and be in practice tomorrow. Are you happy with this wide receiver room?
Yeah, I like it. Again, there's good complement. You got to have a good backup to Claypool at the X, and that's EQ, who, a tall, rangy guy. I think Darnell and DJ, sorry about that, people.
It's all right.
But it's that time of the day. Darnell and DJ are interchangeable as to who can play the Z and who can play the slot. I don't know what the hell Velus is. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's because, we didn't get to see him in the preseason. And they don't want to give up on him yet. So, and I don't blame them because there is talent there.
Very much, in my opinion.
Yeah. And then, Tyler fits in with DJ and Chase in that he can, play Z or the slot. Trent's strictly a slot, and he's a very good return guy. And he does both. I think he'll just do punts here, but he can do kickoffs too.
By the way, Ryan Pace at the press conference today said that Darnell Mooney never requested a trade, and that was never up for discussion. So that was speculation on the part of a reporter that grew into something.
They never said. I don't know if they said he asked for a trade. They speculated that he was going to get traded, and they were reading what. And that guy's a good guy. Okay, so and I know him, but all he was doing was speculating based on the contract.
Exactly. Other people then started to change.
It grew up on it grew, and I think he knew what he was doing. But it was still, when you looked at the graph he put out, the graph looked like, oh my God, they're gonna trade him. Okay, but then you read the article. Yeah. And the article was all speculation.
It was indeed. It was,
and they were never going to do that.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. And so, but fans being fans, I kind of left that one alone at first, and then I turned the screw a little bit after the fact, like that was never going to happen. I got to say something though. The most foolish bullshit site on X is NFL notifications.
Oh my gosh.
They are so full of shit. And they all they do is copy other people's stuff and put their own take on there.
Yeah.
I don't know, and then they try to say we broke it. So he said something, somebody broke something. So I just to needle him, I said, no. Rappaport had it 6 minutes before you. Go look at the timestamp.
That's right. And yeah, there's no attribution. There's no identity to this generic NFL notifications, whatever the hell it is.
It's some nerd sitting in mommy's basement.
Yeah.
They got no connection. Most people, look at there's people who get paid a lot of money. Adam Schefter makes millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, like close to 10 to get information. And some nerd sitting on X, formerly Twitter, is getting all the scoop. My ass. Come on. Why people even follow these people is beyond me. It's you're wasting your time and you're going to get frustrated. Follow people that know what the hell they're talking about.
Renewable says there's no need to apologize for the coffee. We are all beyond grateful for your time and insight while playing or podcasting through your challenges. You are a fucking legend. And he also says I'm kind of cool as well. So thank you, Triple R.
Well, thank you. I just, this is something I got to live with the rest of my life. And this summer has been rough because of the poor air quality. And I mean, I got a lung issue and it's never going to get better. So
That's right.
I got to deal with it. As long as everything is, if the air was clean, I'd be in good shape.
Indeed. You got an air filter at home? I bought one about 6 months ago. It's made a difference with my allergies.
Has it really?
Yeah, really good.
Where do you put the air filter?
You put
in
it
your
in
furnace?
No, you just put it in the room that you're in most often.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to the one that I bought. I'm really happy with it. Jeff has a question regarding the wide receivers. Do you anticipate the Bears keeping these 7 wide receivers? Who is the odd man out? They clearly value both EQ and Velus highly. What are your thoughts?
Well, to me, another player that could be destined for IR is Velus. He hasn't played in the last 2 games. I don't know if I guess he did practice today.
He did practice according to a report.
Yeah. So, but, so there's something wrong. I think it should it's probably due to flare up.
I think he has an injury to his confidence. Is what he should be designated. Fractured confidence. All right.
He's going on IR because of lack of confidence.
Yeah.
Mental error.
Let's take a look at the tight end position. No surprises here. Komet and Tanyan are your pass catchers, with Komet taking on a bulk of the pass blocking and run blocking responsibilities. And Mercedes Lewis, the 39-year-old veteran, is basically another offensive tackle in this system. You anticipate they adding another player to this tight end room? We've seen 4 tight ends, sometimes 5 with the Bears.
No. You just go back and see what they've done in Green Bay.
Okay.
3.
That's the model. Sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And, the only way they add somebody is if somebody gets hurt.
Right.
And I think they got exactly what they want. This will probably be the only year that Mercedes plays.
Mm-hmm.
So he's getting ready to collect Social Security as an NFL player.
That's right.
39 years old. I tell you what, because I was looking at it. What's the guy's name? The Green Bay Twitter guy, Jeff. He's always trying to, alienate Bears fans, but he's not really a bad guy.
Yeah. There's 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, but he put out the average age of the Packers thing.
Okay.
And they're like 24. It's the youngest team they've had in years. One of the reasons is they don't have Mercedes Lewis.
Right.
So the average age of the Bears, when you count Lewis and Scales, so deep snapper, who's 35, and Lewis is 39, it pushes their average age up to close to 26 years old. Take those 2 guys out, and it's 24.7, which is a young football team.
You were referring to Peter Bukowski, correct?
Yeah, Peter.
Thank you, Swifty. Bukowski.
And
All
Peter's not a bad guy. I mean, I've talked to Peter on the phone, and this was years ago, a couple times, and he's asked me about some things when I was in the XFL, about some players and stuff. And he loves to alienate Bears fans.
He's a professional troll.
Yeah. So, and he will do it, but I guarantee he's going to go into freaking hiding if the Bears win this game in 10 days.
Yeah, indeed. Let's take a look at the defensive linemen on the roster. Ndakwe, Justin Jones, Andrew Billings, DeMarcus Walker, arguably the starting 4. And then we've got Rasheem Green, a surprise to many that he's still on the roster. Jervon Dexter, Zach Pickens, the 2 rookies. Dominique Robinson entering his 2nd year. And then newly acquired Khalid Kareem. What's your gut tell you about this room?
Well, I thought that Trevis earned a spot, but I get it. Okay, so, I'm not going to piss and moan about it. Green hasn't played a lot to show a lot. He did have a sack. and he's had a couple good chase plays.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see any special. But from what I understand, he's a motherfucker in practice.
Ooh, nice.
So it's, have we seen what he is in the game? So I think you're not going to see 9 guys in a game. You're going to see 7 or 8. In a perfect world, they do a 8-man rotation, rotating both the outside and the inside.
Right.
So we'll see how that works. But, who's Khalid Kareem's biggest competition to get in the active roster? Is it Robinson or is it Green? And I think that'll be interesting how that plays out. Because he's new, I don't know if we'll see him next week. Some of that, they obviously like what they saw when he played against him.
Right.
But I think a lot of it schemes are similar, but how he adapts to the different calls and the terminology in this 10 days between now and the game.
Greg, it is obvious that the Bears right now are prioritizing these defensive ends who are adept at setting the edge and hoping that these defensive tackles that they've replenished the team with, 2 young rookies and Billings, can crush the pocket by coming up the middle, and then the 2 defensive ends set the edge, and that's how they are going to go about their pass rush, which will be good for defensive backs and linebackers, hopefully create some turnovers, but they're putting a little bit less emphasis on a pass rusher, probably because there just aren't a lot of great ones available right now until hopefully next year's draft.
Yeah, that's got some validity. The run defense sucked last year. You got to give me a minute here. Let me just
take your time. Take your time. That is Greg Gabriel, as he authentically shared with us. He has a respiratory problem, and when it gets a little later in the day, he starts to have these coughing issues. And so, I might put in the mail an air purifier, one of the ones I have for him. So while he is away, let me play another soundbite for you guys. This was really a great question. I forgot the name of the reporter who asked this, but he asked Ryan Poles about, where are you, Ryan, with the filling in holes? You said before the season, we're not going to be able to fill in all of the holes that we have, but we're going to get closer. And so he was asked, where are you at? And he was very, very candid. I'll clue Greg in into what I'm going to play here. So he was very, very candid. Greg, listen to Ryan Poles talking very candidly, surprisingly very candid about where he is at in terms of filling in the holes for this team.
Just being realistic, man. On paper, 80%, 75%. But at the end of the day, when the lights come on and we play a real game, the energy level's different, the speed is different. We'll be able to evaluate that as we go through the season. But I feel good, again, on paper, I feel good about the progress, and I feel took a chunk out of what we needed to.
Right. Thought that was an incredibly candid response, and I would agree with him. There's about 15-20% of the positions in this team are not the guys that you really are going to help you win Super Bowls, at least from the starter's perspective. What say you?
Yeah, I don't disagree. Part of it is reading between the lines. Is you got some guys that you want to be key players that are still young.
Right.
And so they might have the talent to be those players, but are they ready to be? I guess that's the easiest way to put it. Are they ready to step up and take that role?
Right.
And you could say, with Gervon Dexter and Zach Pickens. I mean, that's two young guys that you got high picks on that you want to control the middle. I mean, those guys got the talent to become very good players. Right. Whether they do or they don't remains to be seen. And that's why I think the lights haven't come on yet. Right. You got to see how the lights come on. But, it's always it's a puzzle you're trying to construct. And he's not done. I think you need one more strong offseason, meaning free agency and the draft. But I know he'd rather build through the draft. You want to fill in the pieces with free agency. Exactly. And not have to go crazy.
Indeed. All right, let us move on here. The next position group we are going to talk about are the linebackers. Where's my little graphic here? There they are. Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn. Surprising to many that Dylan Cole remains and Noah Sewell. It was back at practice, so the injury he sustained doesn't appear to be serious. This is a much improved linebacker room than last year's, isn't it, Greg?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Dylan Cole, they signed him for a reason. The guy's been a starter. He's been a great special teams player. He can play multiple linebacker positions. Jack Sanborn can play multiple linebacker positions. So you want to have that flexibility. And that's why there's only 5, because for the most part, only 2 are playing. There's very few down. Now, in the preseason, they're playing very base vanilla defense. So you were playing 3 linebackers a lot. You were playing a pure 4-3. That's not going to be the case next week. Your starters you're going to be starting off in sub. Okay. So TJ and Tremaine are going to be in there because Green Bay's going to, unless Green Bay's not going to have 3 wides, you're going to, and there's going to be situations because they drafted some young tight ends that are pretty athletic, but one of those tight ends isn't going to be in tight. He's going to be like their slot receiver. He's going to be a move guy. And so you'd want your nickel in to take care of those guys also.
Indeed. Well, how surprised were you that Mykal Walker, I think his name is, the guy who had over 100 tackles for the Falcons at the linebacker position, he was picked up on waivers probably 4 weeks ago. And how surprised were you that he did not make this team?
It didn't surprise me. And the one reason was he was making almost $2.8 million. Okay. So now you cut him. And he went through waivers. So now his contract's null and void. So now you can bring him. He's a guy you can bring back, put him on the practice squad or whatever, and then bring him up to the roster, and you can probably pay him half of that.
Yeah.
He got the jump because of the play time that he had in Atlanta. Okay, and it's the same with some of the guys here. They get a big jump. Your original rookie contract gets thrown out when you get into your 4th year, right? And it incentivizes, and it jumps up quite a bit. So instead of what you were supposed to make, you're getting almost double in that last year of your rookie contract. So whether he's a dead issue, I don't have the answer to that. His agent would probably say if you wanted to bring him back, well, you got to give him 2.7, and nobody's going to give him the 2.7.
No, he is not going to get that. But it'd be interesting if they do bring him back at
it was like 2.75. I think he was going to make.
If he does return to the Bears, that would be very astute business decision by the Chicago Bears. Let's take a quick look at the.
I'll be honest, I did not study him that much to say if I liked him, disliked him, or whatever.
Yeah, he was.
But he's obviously gets 100 tackles in this league. He's got some talent.
Exactly.
So, but last year they went a good part of the year with 5 linebackers on the 53, and it's because you're playing mostly 2.
Yeah. Okay. He's a quick guy who can wrap up players, so he'll be playing in the NFL somewhere. We'll see where. Cornerback.
Get claimed.
Yep, not yet, but he will sign somewhere, I'm sure. Cornerback, we got Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, the rookie Tyreek Stevenson, another rookie Terrell Smith, Josh Blackwell, and Jalen Jones. You expect there to be any changes in this cornerback room?
No, and I don't know why a lot of fans think they needed a corner.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty good group. Blackwell and Jones earned their spurs, so to speak, last year. Those guys played when they were forced into playing. They played well.
They did.
When the other guys were down, and now they're a year older, year more
Mhm.
experienced. They got some toughness
Mhm.
to them. Terrell Smith was limited in the second preseason game, I think it was, or no, the first preseason game.
Yeah.
Then he played, and he showed some things, and he was challenging Tyreek for the starting role early in camp, and then he had a groin issue, according to his agent.
Mhm.
Tyreek is a little over assertive at times.
Yes.
He's got to settle down. Got to think. Stupid plays cost you yardage.
Yep.
And so, or stupid penalties. So think before you swing, because it only can get you in trouble. So, But aside from that, yeah, I like the group. It's athletic. It's got good size. It's fast. Yeah, that's a pretty good group.
Yep. And I expect
It's the only thing they don't have is they're not loaded with experience. There's a lot of talent there, but there's not a lot of experience.
Right. Jalen Johnson is proclaimed that he's going to be searching for more turnovers, and that includes forcing fumbles. So good luck to him on that in his contract here. At the safety position, we've got Eddie Jackson, Jaquan Brisker, who was at practice today on an exercise bicycle, so he may not be 100%, but he's very, very close. Elijah Hicks, the second-year man, and then the newly acquired rookie Quindell Johnson, an intriguing safety room. It could be a really, really good room, particularly if Hicks and Johnson come through if needed in a pinch.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jaquan's good to go. I go back. Did you listen to Flus's presser yesterday?
Yes.
He said everybody's good to go.
Yeah.
Except for Tevin. So they probably held him out another day. Maybe they hold him out tomorrow, and he got the long weekend, and then he starts practicing next week in game week for Green Bay. So, I'm not sure about the depth. Hicks was there last year. I don't know Quindell Johnson. They obviously do. They wanted to sign him as an undrafted free agent. They had to feel good about him before.
Versatility is what Cunningham said at today's press conference. He's just a much more versatile safety than what they had in A.J. Thomas, is what I read in between the lines.
Yeah, and I thought A.J. had a pretty good preseason, but I suspect A.J. will be on the practice squad.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's take a look at the practice squad. As of about an hour ago, when I put this graphic together, we got Baskerville, the rookie defensive lineman, defensive tackle Travis Bell, Robert Burns, the fullback, who I really thought had a good camp, Stephen Carlson, the veteran Collins, offensive lineman, linebacker DeMarcus Gates, defensive lineman Jalen Harris, and Roy Mbeg. I knew I was going to screw it up. I rehearsed it too, but the Nigerian-born defensive lineman, Greg Stroman, the veteran defensive back, Nasimba Webster, and the rookie Kendall Williamson. That's who I got.
Well, there's one more that you don't have.
Okay, and that is?
Bill Murray, and not the comedian.
I saw somebody put that up in the chat, and I was like, what is this, a joke or something?
No, he's a interior offensive lineman who's been with the Pats since 20.
Oh, okay. Well, good. Welcome to Chicago, Bill Murray. And it's not that Bill Murray. They've got now 5 slots left to fill in the practice squad.
Well, the Nigerian kid doesn't count.
So 6 slots then.
Well, how many you got, including him? Let me see. They got 1, 2, 3. How many you got there? 11?
11, yes.
Okay. So Murray is 12. They got 5 slots because Roy doesn't count.
Right.
Against the 16. He's the 17th guy.
Mm-hmm. I'll tell you, none of these names really excites me other than Travis Bell and Jalen Harris, I think those guys have some potential to be contributors to the Bears long term. So hopefully they'll continue to add more talent to the practice squad. All right. We did forget to talk about special teams as we normally do. It is Santos and Gill and Scales. No surprises there. Those three guys are back. O'Donnell was released by the Green Bay Packers. You have any interest in him coming into camp and taking a look at him to compete with Gill?
This group passed on him last year when he went up to Green Bay.
That's right. They did.
They like Gill, and so and he's done a good job. I mean, special teams is actually, for the most part, pretty damn good in preseason. It'll be better because you're substituting so much in the preseason to get a good look at kids. So it'll be a little bit better once the regular season starts because you'll have your set crew of guys.
Yeah. All right, let's handle some of the questions that we have here that we didn't get a chance to get to. Jeff Willis early on asked if you were surprised that the Bears didn't claim an offensive tackle, or is it common to only keep 3 on the active roster?
It's common to keep 3. Most teams have 8 or 9 active on the 53. And then you got, but sometimes you go heavy on the practice squad. And so you have like maybe 11 total. And they got 10 right now on the active.
That's quite a bit.
Yeah, they got 1 tackle, Collins, on the practice squad. And a couple interior guys, including Murray. So I think they gave up on Dieter.
You think it's over for Dieter, huh? After what, 4 or 5 seasons?
I think that he's hit the ceiling, and they probably saw that, and so it's like, why keep? He is what he is, and you're trying to get better. Can he get you out of a game? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But with the practice squad, you're trying to get better and get somebody who's got a chance to being a better player.
Okay. Drew Black has this question. He would love to hear your take on Justin's last preseason game. He looked pretty bad, but then again, it's preseason. Are fans overreacting, or is it a real cause for concern?
Fans always overreact. I got to tell you something, because I was kind of waiting for that. When I was with the Giants, I had to scout pro teams in preseason too. And so this was the last preseason game of the 1990 preseason. Okay. So the Bears were playing, I'm with the Giants, but the Bears were playing the Bills at the University of South Carolina on a Thursday night. Okay, so, and I'm, from Buffalo, even though I'm working for the Giants, I'm from Buffalo. So I was hoping the Bills would put up a good game. The Bears killed them. I mean, you'd have to go look up the score, but I'm going to say beat them by 4 or 5 touchdowns. It's like the Bills didn't even show up. Okay. Last preseason game. Marv Levy could give a shit about preseason.
He didn't care at all.
Didn't care at all. Bills went on to win their first 9 games. And I think they only lost 1 or 2 during the regular season and got to a Super Bowl. That was their first of 4. And they played us in the Super Bowl, the Giants. So I don't care what the team did last Saturday. It means it's first of all, you're playing vanilla offense. You didn't have your whole starting offensive line in there. All you're doing is calling plays. You want to get out of that game without having any injuries,
right?
And be ready to say. So are you going to remember the preseason in December? No, you could care less. But, people want to get up in arms and that's their right. They can, but put it in perspective. When the Cubs or the White Sox win or lose in exhibition games out in Arizona, does it matter?
Nope.
In spring training, well, why does preseason football matter?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I think it well, and I know you know this. It matters in terms of player performance, individual player performance. And so JT O'Sullivan, the former quarterback who now runs the quarterback school on YouTube and what's going on here? On YouTube and Patreon, was upset that Justin Fields was missing wide open receivers in that Buffalo Bills game. And that is concerning to me because the processing, you look at the all-22 and you see an open guy and you see Fields not pulling the trigger. Those were the problems that he had last week.
Well, I don't know what the play calls were, and I don't know what the progression is. So you could have a wide open guy and he's your fourth player in the progression.
Right.
Okay, so not a whole lot are going to see him. Okay, and I'm not making an excuse. I'm just saying I don't give a shit. It's preseason. And he didn't look good in what did he play, 2 series or 3? So
3.
The series that he didn't look good was the first one. But was he the only one that didn't look good?
Correct.
Okay, so, and the old adage, quarterback gets too much blame and too many accolades when there's 10 other guys on the field.
Yeah, sure.
So I don't care. I'll care if he doesn't play well against Green Bay.
Yes, exactly. He better not miss that wide open receiver going down the middle of the field. And so that is just a concern. I want to see progression with him pulling the trigger and not waiting for those Ohio State windows. This is the NFL. You're going to have to make those tough throws with confidence. All right, let's get another 2-3 questions out of the way here. Jordan asks, can Greg provide insight to the following question? Is there a reason the practice squad isn't made of more varied players beyond just who you carried through camp? Shouldn't you be testing new talent? Interesting question.
Okay, it's an interesting question. And right now they've brought in one player, this Murray, from outside. We used to try to bring in a few. They're there. Some of them are there to practice, and they're not there to develop. You got to, you need your scout team, and you find that out in January, when the day after the season's over, who do they sign to a futures contract and who they don't. You don't want to bring in all these different guys and have them line up in practice when they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Exactly.
There's got to be some continuity. You can't be bringing in 7 or 8 new guys and trying to teach them things when that's what these guys have been doing for 6 weeks in the spring and 6 weeks at training camp.
Yeah. So
you can get through it. And don't forget practice, there's a big difference in practice during training camp versus practice during the season. Okay. There's where training camp practices are scripted. They're scripted strictly for calls, what certain plays you want to see. You want to see how certain players react. You want to see how the play works or whatever. You want to just practice a certain play, but there's no continuity with the play calls. Yeah. Okay. So when you're in game week now, everything is preparing for Sunday. You got a game plan for Sunday. You got a script for Sunday, and you practice nothing but that.
Yep.
Okay, so all tryouts and practice are over now. This is serious shit. So now, if you see a player Sorry.
It's okay.
Player gets cut. Perfect example. This kid from the Rams, Johnson, the guy from Memphis, he gets cut. It's a guy they liked. So we used to say, I want to be the one to cut him. For certain guys, and we used to bring a couple guys, outsiders, so to speak. And here's when you want to do that, if there's certain guys, in the say 10 days, 2 weeks leading up to the final cut, you're scanning the other rosters and you find out you're figuring out who's on the bubble. And so you're looking, and then you're saying, oh, this guy here with the Rams might get cut, and I want him. I want him on my practice squad. So you find out who the agent is. Now, this is tampering? Yes. But you call the agent because you can't talk to the kid. Hey, if Joe gets cut, I want him on our practice squad. And first you got to sell the agent.
Okay.
On why you want him on the practice squad.
Right.
And the agent will turn around and sell the player. But then once they get cut, so that was noon yesterday, 11 yesterday, our time. Now you can call the player. And if the agent was doing his job, the agent, might say, expect a call from the Bears. And there were some players who did that. Then you got to sell the player. And the team that just cut him, he's got a familiarity with the team that cut him. He's got to feel good,
Sure.
I've made friends here. I know what I'm doing. I know the offense, or I know the defense. I'm comfortable here. And then but you gotta counteract that. Yeah, but they didn't keep you, did they?
Exactly.
And then you go through their depth chart. Look at what's in front of you on the depth chart. Do you think you got a real opportunity? Now, look what we got. There's a glowing opportunity for you here. And it might be just a few weeks on the practice squad until you get up to speed. And then we might be able to bring you up to the varsity. So, it's a sell job.
Absolutely.
You got to recruit. So, Jordan, it does happen, but it's only with a few guys. And if you go through the league, you'll see it. You'll see each team will have maybe up to 3 or 4 guys that were on other teams' rosters. Now, you'll see it. See, this week, because you're getting right into the first you're getting ready for that opening game. You need that continuity, but there's always going to be turnover on that practice squad.
Right.
There's going to be a handful of guys that you really like. We used to flip guys out. And so keep a guy on for 3 weeks, stay in town. We're bringing you back in another week. Then he doesn't, you cut him for the practice squad, then you bring him back, and then you cut somebody else. And you really then we had 10 and 12 people on the practice squad. But because we were flipping guys in and out, we really had 16. And so, there's different games you can play.
Yeah. Well, man, you just opened up a whole can of worms. We'll talk about it more, the practice squad, next week. I want to get these last 2 questions out of here and give your voice and throat a rest here. Tim
It's not my
Willits,
throat, it's my lungs.
your lungs, give your lungs a break here. Tim asks, with the additions to the defensive line, what is the weakest position group on the roster in your opinion? What position group do you think could really use some improvement in player personnel?
Good question.
It is a good question.
And I don't know if you can fairly answer it until we see a couple games that count, that really matter. But I can answer it this way. If the draft was next week, I'm drafting 2 edges with 2 of the first 3 picks.
Yep. Same here.
So, Ngakwe's got a 1-year deal. That doesn't mean he's only going to be here 1 year, but he's got a 1-year deal. You're still trying to figure out what D-Rob is and Green and all that. So I think it's and you don't know what – I mean, I know what Khalid Kareem was in college, and I pretty much know his game like at the Colts last year and at Cincinnati. But he's a backup. He's not a frontline player. You need, I think, a couple dominant edges. And I know what if you look at the potential, I got a picture of it, I think. Somebody put out potential free agents.
Okay.
And I took a screenshot of it.
I wish I had my little free agent graphic. I didn't do that.
Okay. Edges. I mean, here's potential. Means nothing because they, could end up re-signing.
Okay.
Nick Bosa, Brian Burns, Montez Sweat, Rashawn Gary, Josh Allen from the Jaguars, Chase Young. Everybody's going to get hot and bothered over that name. Well, I'm not going to get hot and bothered until he does something this year.
Yep.
That's it. There's one other one, and I didn't squeeze it in, it didn't come all the way through. Mm-hmm. There's some potential good names on there, depending who hits the market and who doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
But here's reality. It's going to cost you better than 20 per for most of those guys.
Yep.
Okay, that's easy.
Yeah.
And what Ryan is trying to do is build those key positions through the draft. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to, at least you're getting some free time with them.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, and space it out. So, I'll go to my deathbed thinking that, and no, I'm not going to die anytime soon, but that they're going to prioritize edge in next year's draft.
I'm with you 100%. These big ticket items meaning players, the defensive linemen, the quarterbacks and so forth, you want to acquire them via the draft and not free agency because it just disrupts the financial structure of the team in such a way that makes it very difficult to have a really complete good roster. So I'm with you.
Right. Well, and on top of that, who you got to pay next year?
Yeah, Justin Fields.
You got to pay Justin Fields, and you've got some guys under 1-year contracts and guys going into their final year of the contract.
Indeed.
So what's better for the team? Go out and pay $25 million for one of these guys that, is already 27, 28, 29 years old, mm-hmm. or get a 21, 22-year-old, and you got him 5 years, mm-hmm. and you're hoping that you drafted the right guy.
Yep. Indeed. All right. I got a final question for you. It is from J2K. He says, Greg, how quickly can Dan Feeney be a reliable starter at center, assuming that Whitehair is at the guard position, left guard, I'm thinking at Green Bay. So the question is, you've talked to us a number of times of how complicated this offense is and that it takes a while to get going. The center has probably one of the most position responsibilities of anybody on the squad. Can Dan Feeney get up to speed so that if he's needed against Green Bay Packers, he can play?
Okay, I'm going to answer that with a couple questions.
Okay.
Where'd he come from?
Oh, the Colts? No.
No.
The Colts.
Miami Dolphins.
Miami Dolphins, yeah.
Who's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins?
The genius guy with the glasses.
Where'd he come from?
San Francisco.
What offense does San Francisco run?
The Bears offense.
What? What offense does Miami run?
You're a good teacher, man.
Why the fuck do you think they traded for him?
Exactly. All makes sense now.
So I would say, is he going to start the first game? I mean,
Probably
I think
not.
some of that has to do with the health of Patrick.
Yeah.
But I know Luke Getsy has got, a strong liking for Patrick. So we'll see what happens. But there's not a doubt in my mind that that's the guy they went after because the learning curve wasn't going to be as steep. Like the Steelers had a guy center that they traded to Houston.
Right.
And basically the same deal, a 6th-round pick. Okay. I don't know if the guy's good, bad, or indifferent, but he would take him a while to get up to speed.
Not from the same system, yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Where, Miami's going to be very, very similar to San Francisco, which is very similar to what we use. And so he's going to be up to speed a lot quicker. Is he going to be ready to go next week? I can't answer that, but it's not going to take very long.
Greg Gabriel, you are a man's man. Playing hurt with your
I'm
cough.
not playing hurt. Just let's keep doing this in the morning, and I won't have this problem.
Exactly. So I'll say this to our followers. Our plan during the season is that we are going to do the show Monday morning. So on Sundays, we've got tons of Bears programming throughout the day. We've got a pregame show. We've got a fantasy football show before NFL kickoff. And then we got a halftime report and a show immediately after the game. We might even have a Sunday night show if somebody called me and said, hey, what about this? But then on Monday morning, this is the place to be because Greg Gabriel will be offering his thoughts on the game and all of the insights.
Next week on Tuesday, I might not be available. I won't know till probably Friday.
Okay.
And Monday's a holiday.
Right.
So we might want to go Wednesday next week, but if I find out what I need to find out on Friday, then I might have an appointment I have to go to on Tuesday.
Cool. So best way to stay on top of everything that we're doing is to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll get updates every time we are live with the show, or just follow us at at Barroom Network, or Greg at GGabe Football on X. I got to change that from on Twitter to X. And just one more programming note. Tonight, it is going to be Ross McInreed talking Bears football at 6 p.m. Central, and then the return of Buffon 55 at 7:30 Central. So hope you will join us for all of this great programming that we have for you. Greg, you're my hero, brother.
Well, stay on. I got an idea I got to share with you.
Okay. And for all of you who have joined us live, thank you very much for being a big part of the show. Your questions and so forth are immensely helpful for the entertainment value of the show. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.